Wow. Okay. So, South Korea. Right. Things are getting a little crazy over there. President Yoon Suk Yeol just declared emergency martial law.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a big deal, not something you see every day, especially, in a country like South Korea.
I mean, martial law, it's a pretty drastic step, right? Like,
Right.
you think of, you know, dictatorships and, I don't know, coups and stuff, not democracies.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good look. And, we've been looking at all these reports from the BBC, South China Morning Post, CNBC, and even CNN, and it seems like everyone is pretty surprised by this.
So the big question is why? Why would Yoon do something like this?
Well, he's saying it's because of the opposition, the Democratic Party. He's basically accusing them of trying to sabotage the government.
Sabotage. How so?
He's saying that, well, first of all, he says they're, sympathizing with North Korea.
Whoa, hold on. Sympathizing with North Korea, that's a pretty serious accusation.
Yeah, and he's also saying they're, deliberately obstructing everything he tries to do. Like, they tried to impeach his top prosecutors, and they rejected his budget proposal.
Okay, so he's saying they're playing politics and putting the country at risk.
Exactly. He's saying they're holding the country hostage, basically, and that he had to declare martial law to, protect the country from these quote-unquote pro-North Korean forces.
Okay, so protect the country, but by, like, taking away people's rights. I mean, how does that even work?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about martial law, right? It's basically saying that the civilian government can't handle things, so the military needs to step in.
And does that mean uh, soldiers on the streets and curfews and stuff?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it depends on how Yoon decides to implement it, but it definitely has the potential to get pretty intense.
This doesn't seem like something that just happened overnight, though.
No, definitely not.
No,
I mean, Yoon has been having a rough time since he took office in 2022. Well, his approval ratings have been tanking, and he's been constantly fighting with the opposition-controlled parliament. Plus, there were those scandals involving his wife and some of his top officials.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. Those didn't exactly help his image, did they?
No, not at all. And, he kind of brushed off those scandals and refused to do any independent investigations, which just made things worse.
So basically, he's been in a tough spot for a while now, and this martial law declaration seems like, like a pretty desperate move.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. I mean, it's hard to say what he's hoping to achieve with this, but it's definitely a risky move.
Yeah, I mean, the Democratic Party, they called an emergency meeting right away when they heard about this.
I bet that was a fun meeting.
Yeah, probably not a lot of holiday cheer going around there.
I mean, this is serious stuff, right? Like, could this actually, hurt South Korea's democracy?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big worry, right? It shows how, fragile democracy can be.
Like, 1 minute you're voting, and the next minute, bam, martial law. Exactly. And you see this kind of thing happening more and more around the world.
Like where?
Well, I mean, look at what's been happening in, some countries in Europe or even in the US.
Yeah, true. I mean, things are getting pretty divided everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's what makes democracy so vulnerable. When people lose trust in the system, it's easier for, strong men to come in and take over.
Okay, so this whole thing in South Korea, it's like what do you call it?
A microcosm.
Yeah, a microcosm of what's happening all over the world.
Exactly. It's a warning sign for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about why Yoon might have done this and, the bigger picture, but what about the actual consequences? Like what could happen now?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but there are a few possibilities.
Like what?
Well, one possibility is that this backfires on Yoon big time.
How so?
Well, by declaring martial law, he might have actually united the opposition against him even more than before.
So instead of, crushing them, he's actually made them stronger.
Yeah, it's possible. And if that happens, it could lead to even more political gridlock and maybe even, protests and unrest.
Okay, so that's one possibility. What else?
Well, the other possibility is that Yoon actually succeeds in consolidating his power.
You mean like he becomes a dictator?
Well, not necessarily a dictator, but, he could use this martial law to crack down on dissent and, restrict people's freedoms.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it wouldn't be good at all. It would be a major setback for democracy in South Korea.
And what about North Korea? Could this affect them?
Yeah, potentially. I mean,
Right.
North Korea has a history of trying to take advantage of instability in the South.
So they could, like, try to do something provocative?
Yeah, it's possible. They might see this as an opportunity to, stir up trouble.
Okay, so this whole situation is pretty messy. And it's not just a problem for South Korea, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this could affect the whole region,
Yeah, absolutely. And it could also affect South Korea's relationships with other countries.
like the U.S.
Yeah, like the U.S. and other democratic countries. They're probably not going to be too happy about this martial law declaration.
Now, South Korea could end up isolated.
Yeah, it's possible, and that could have economic consequences too.
How so?
Well, if foreign investors get nervous about the situation, they might pull their money out of South Korea, and that could hurt the economy.
So basically, this one decision by Yoon could have all sorts of ripple effects.
Exactly. It's a really big deal, and it's something that we need to watch very closely.
Man, it's kind of scary to think about, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what can we even do about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's tough. There's no easy answer. But I think the most important thing is to, not just give up.
So, like, what can people actually do?
Well, first of all, stay informed. Read about what's happening. Pay attention to the news.
Yeah, but there's so much information out there, it's hard to know what to believe.
That's true. But that's why it's important to, get your information from multiple sources. Don't just rely on one news outlet or one website.
Okay, so stay informed. What else?
And, talk about it. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues. Share what you're learning and listen to what other people have to say.
So, like, have those awkward political conversations at Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly. Democracy depends on people being engaged and talking to each other.
Speaking of staying informed, we've actually got some great resources on our YouTube channel, The Digital Podcast.
Oh, yeah, we've got a couple of videos that go into a lot more detail about this whole martial law situation in South Korea.
Yeah, if you want to, really understand what's going on, definitely check those out.
And of course, you can listen to this episode on Spotify too, and we'll have links to all the articles we talked about in the show notes.
Yeah, and don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. We always love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, we want to know what you think about this whole situation. What do you think the future holds for South Korea?
And for democracy in general. I mean, this is a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal, and it's something that we all need to be thinking about.
So, yeah, stay informed, stay engaged, and hopefully we can all, figure out a way to make things better.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
And we'll see you next time.